So, the dopamine and serotonin levels of modern day humans are a lot different from what we would see ancestrally. A lot lower, specifically, and dysregulated. And yeah, a lot of this is just the fact that, like, the world is like a flaming dumpster fire right now. And we're all just kind of like trying to survive, right? I'll talk about it later, but I wanted to read you the article I wrote as to why our dopamine and serotonin levels are different than what they were maybe just like 3 generations ago. So I titled it The Modern Brain Problem, Why Our Feel-Good Chemicals Are Fading. And I'm just going to read off of the screen. So in an age of unprecedented technological advancement and convenience, we are simultaneously witnessing a silent epidemic of mental fatigue, low motivation, and emotional flatness. And again, some of this is just burnout because the news cycle has not stopped. But some of it's not. At the heart of this modern problem is a critical depletion of our essential neurotransmitters, particularly dopamine, which is the molecule of drive, reward, and focus, and serotonin, the molecule of well-being, contentment, and calm. The problem is twofold. So the first part is that our bodies are struggling to produce enough of these chemicals, right? And then the second part is our brains are becoming less sensitive to the signals that they send. I'm going to cover the first part in this video because it's a little long, and then the second video I'm going to cover why they're less sensitive to the signals that they send. So part 1, the production shortfall. Why can't we make enough? So the gut-brain axis breakdown. Inside of your intestines are these 2 little types of bacteria. They're called Bifidobacterium and Lactobacillus, and their normal every day-to-day job, they produce these 3 compounds called phenylalanine, tyrosine, and tryptophan, and then we can absorb them from our intestines. These are like the needed precursors for things like dopamine and serotonin. Dopamine goes on to make epinephrine and norepinephrine, which is involved in alertness and focus, and then serotonin goes on to make melatonin, which is critical for sleep. So we need these amino acids, these compounds that Bifidobacterium and Lactobacillus make. Unfortunately, we have antibiotics in our food and water, right? So the widespread low-level exposure to antibiotics through conventionally raised meat and even water systems acts like a scorched earth policy on our gut flora. It indiscriminately kills off both harmful and the beneficial bacteria that we depend on for neurotransmitter synthesis. And then glyphosate in agrochemicals. Glyphosate is what you call Roundup, right? And it can be non-GMO, and they can spray glyphosate on it, and glyphosate can still contaminate organic crops. So just because you eat organic doesn't mean you're safe from glyphosate. Glyphosate is the most widely used herbicide in the world, and it's a proven antimicrobial agent. It was originally patented as an antibiotic. It acts as an antibiotic in the gut, specifically targeting and reducing the populations of Lactobacillus and Bifidobacterium. With fewer of these bacteria, we are less efficient at converting the food we eat into the building blocks for dopamine and serotonin. I'm not even going to get into this about how you can have leaky gut that causes inflammation, which can trigger brain inflammation, which can completely dysregulate and shunt your serotonin production into production of a chemical that causes neuroinflammation. I can talk about that later if you want me to. The second part of the production shortfall is the dietary shift. We are shifting from nutrient-dense food to processed food. And listen, I am not blaming anybody. Processed food is a lot cheaper, and we just have to feed our kids. So no blame here. It's nobody's fault. But our ancestors consumed a diverse whole foods diet rich in cofactors needed for neurochemical synthesis. The modern diet works against this in several ways. Sugar and refined carbs. This causes a rapid, massive spike in dopamine, far exceeding what any natural food would provide. This hyperstimulation contributes to receptor dysregulation, which I'll talk about in the second video. And the subsequent blood sugar crash also promotes inflammation, which impairs neurotransmitter synthesis. So you just can't make as much dopamine and serotonin. And then micronutrient depletion. Modern soils. So even if you buy organic, if the soil is depleted, you're not getting it in your food. And processed food are often low in key minerals and vitamins. Things like zinc, magnesium, and B vitamins are essential cofactors for the enzymes that convert tryptophan to serotonin and tyrosine or phenylalanine to dopamine. Without them, the assembly line grinds to a halt and you just can't make enough. The third cause of the production shortfall, therefore, is the methylation dilemma. So you have these little groups in your body called methyl donors, and they're just a carbon with 3 hydrogens on them. Even when we have the raw precursors, so we have tyrosine, we have tryptophan, right? We have all the vitamins that we need. Your body still needs methyl groups to finalize neurotransmitter production and to break them down sufficiently. This process, called methylation, is like the final assembly line. However, methyl groups are a precious and finite resource, and in the modern body, they're being diverted to fight other battles. So the biggest battle that they fight is processing xenobiotics. In the body, you have what's called phase 2 and phase 2 detox in the liver, and it's just to help you get rid of anything in the food or water and any chemical, anything from outside that gets in your body that the body decides needs to get out, right? And this can even be like medications you take. Our bodies are constantly bombarded with man-made chemicals, pesticides, plastics, and pollutants. The liver uses methyl groups to tag these toxins for elimination. This detoxification pathway is on overdrive in the modern era, right? Creating a massive demand for methyl groups that can outcompete the brain's need for them. And then the second thing, in the age of COVID, this is a very, very important thing. And for my October slide, people, I'm going to make a separate video on that later. But many people have latent viruses in their body. Things like maybe Epstein-Barr or cytomegalovirus, things like that, right? Many of us carry latent viruses like EBV. The immune system requires a constant supply of methyl groups to keep these viruses dormant, leaving fewer for neurotransmitter production. You also need methyl groups to get rid of histamine, which I think is why histamine girlies are more prone to the October slide. So essentially, your body only has so many methyl groups to go around, and it's trying to divert them to the most important things. And getting these toxins out of your body and keeping these viruses silent is just more important than like making your brain chemicals. And then the last thing, and this is specifically talking about melatonin and sleep because it impacts serotonin and dopamine, is our circadian rhythms are disrupted. Our brains evolved to be in constant sync with the sun's 24-hour light cycle. Sorry, I'm Appalachian, so it comes out light sometimes. We have a lot of blue light at night. Let me show you what I found today. So this is my daughter's bedroom. We've got these LED lights all across the ceiling. And I'm just going to show you the corner because I don't like people seeing my kids or their room. Even little things like that, the LED lights, I told her today we were going to change them to red because she has been having problems sleeping. Wonder why. But little things like that, phone screens, the kids' laptops at school don't have like the blue setting on them. Watching TV, literally anything. That blue light exposure tricks your brain into thinking that it's daytime, so it produces less melatonin, but you also like get out of sync with the sun's natural rhythm. You can buy these like light boxes on Amazon. I'll put a photo up, but you kind of like sit it behind whatever you're working on and it shines this like bright light at your face, and you use it in the morning and it kind of like helps reset that. So if you can't get outside, it's okay. But any exposure to light after like 6 p.m. Is going to suppress melatonin production. And this can like fragment your sleep so you don't sleep as deeply, and the sections of your sleep kind of get broken up. You don't go through it like a full REM sleep cycle. This is going to cause a problem because serotonin is a direct precursor to melatonin. Poor sleep quality depletes serotonin reserves, creating a vicious cycle. If you have low serotonin, it leads to poor sleep because you can't convert that serotonin that you don't have, right, into melatonin. But if you have poor sleep, you can't make serotonin because your brain, when it gets inflamed, it's going to shunt tryptophan, which is the precursor to serotonin, away from serotonin production. So it's like this vicious cycle, right? You also need deep sleep to reset your dopamine receptors. Luckily, there are fixes for all of these. They're in my report. I can talk about them on a video too. I don't want to like gatekeep any knowledge. But yeah, we're actually making less dopamine and serotonin in the modern age than we would have, 5 generations ago. So it's not just in anybody's head. You're not just lazy. You just don't have enough dopamine. And you're not just unhappy, although like in the world we have today, it's okay to be a little sad sometimes. But it could just be that you don't have enough serotonin.